Welcome, everyone, to Click Moments and Passionate Pursuits The Unfolding, where intuitively guided conversations are followed with feral faith, enthusiasm, and joy, bringing new insights, inspiration, and perspectives along the way. And today, as usual, we're really excited about the topic. It's about practicing different concepts that we have. But before you leave and go boring, this is not what you want to hear. We're talking about fun practice. We're talking about life-giving practice. We're talking about practices that you feel into that are right for you because you've actually done the work of being able to sense and feel that this feels right to you. This is a way that you uniquely practice that helps to perpetuate and give some momentum to the different concepts that you're integrating into your life that make a difference to how your life plays out. That's the kind of practice we're talking about. We're not talking about boring practice. Okay. This is going to be a really exciting conversation. And we're sharing this with you as much as we are for ourselves, because as always, when we are taking in new information, we're all learning at the different places that we're at. So what do you have to share to contribute to setting this up, Bridget? Oh, and by the way, I'm Beth Orr.
And I'm Bridget Corns, and we're your co-hosts.
Yeah, we're the ones having this conversation today. I'm so excited. I just went right past that.
Oh man, so all you gave me in setup for this was practice or how you approach failure or things not working out. So that is all I had when I was taking my notes and writing down my thoughts. So this was my shower thought this morning.
Okay.
I'm in the shower and I'm thinking, do I take showers in order to become the best shower taker that's ever lived and never have to take another shower in my life? Because this is the way we approach practice. I practice so that I can become this goal, achieve this thing, and then never have to do it again because I got there. There's an end to the practice. And my thought was, a practice isn't something we do to reach an end. We enter it with the mindset of enjoyment, of expression of who we are as a being. And if we approach it as a means to an end, then we miss the whole purpose of it. And I have so many other places to go with this, but we'll get there.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I love where you started. First of all, I want to say to folks that part of why we don't necessarily share our thoughts are around a topic are because we really like the energy and the synergy that happens when we're just organic, and we generally understand what we're going to talk about, but it's not practiced, it's not rehearsed, it's literally being created in front of you and in front of us, so we're getting to have that experience. And this is an example of us practicing something that we truly enjoy. We enjoy conversations that expand our understanding of the world, that bring us closer to the divine, that allow for us to feel mutual belonging in this world and that world simultaneously. I love these conversations that tether me even more, make me more grounded to here, but also less tethered to here. I'm like stretching like this. And instead of it being like the stretch that doesn't feel good, it's like this. And so this is practicing in action, and and I'm never going to get tired of this. I'm never going to be doing this. And maybe somebody else would say, well, you're not really practicing, you're doing something else. But here's the thing. I am practicing because I constantly want to be expanding myself and growing and becoming a better conduit, or a more clear conduit, for the way that information is tethered together as a gift and an offering to others for their own expansion. And when they take it in and they have their own experience and they interact with us and they share with us, how it's impacted them. It's their gift back to us to help us grow. It's like this circular kind of like giving and receiving that happens, but it all comes from this spaciousness of practice. And practice, that term tells me I have more to learn. It keeps me in a growth mindset instead of this static, ah, I know all I need to know. So I'm in this giving space. But when we're in this practice space, we're always receiving something back because we're in this stance of um, I'm expanding. Not that it's not good enough, but it's like this expansion space that allows for us to receive more.
Okay. So I believe that that I'm quoting this from the right person, but it's all over philosophy. Tal Ben Shahar, Brian Johnson talk about not setting goals as distant shores, but thinking of them more as guiding stars. And the purpose for that being that we are constantly in practice. We are constantly in the process of becoming. We are human beings. In other words, we're in motion. And as soon as we reach something or stop, then we're no longer being, we're
Mm,
stagnant. We're not
mhm,
living. So if we shift our thinking around goals or aims and we start thinking of them not necessarily as something that we will ever achieve, but something that we are constantly recalibrating our practices to. So here's my higher self, my ideal version, my divinely inspired, complete, perfected form that I am aiming towards. I'm never going to get there within this lifetime because I'm human, and that's
mhm,
okay. The point isn't to get there, it's not to arrive. The point is to have a guiding star to which I can constantly recalibrate my thoughts, my beliefs, my feelings, my actions, my words in order to continually be in the process of becoming or to continually be practicing becoming my higher self.
mm,
So everything that I do, from the most mundane task to the most monumental action I'll ever take, is all done with the purpose of aiming towards that higher self.
mhm. Yeah, and I think what you just stated is really important because depending on what your biggest overarching belief system or goal, because we have all of these like different tiers of goals,
Mhm.
but there's this top tier that's the guiding tier that everything goes through, right? This filter that everything goes through. And you described, for you, it's your higher self. It's your, I want to be the lightest being that I can be. I want to be the best version of me. If there's a million versions of me that I can be, I want to be in every moment trying to be this version of me that continues to grow and practice to be that better version. And for me, it's the same, but it's how I do that is through sensing in my body, do I feel love, peace, and joy? Do I feel love, peace, and joy? Now, what's interesting is that as I'm practicing feeling more love, peace, and joy, then every single thing that I'm doing, it's ushered through the lens of, is this contributing to that? Is this bringing me into full presence? And am I able to experience that? So even if it's something that is, if I'm practicing love, sometimes I'm having to do hard things. That's you getting up with your child in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. to give them medicine. Now, is that easy? Not necessarily. Doing it again at 6, is that easy? Not necessarily. But it's a practice of love that expands your capacity to love. And it actually has trickle out generalizable behaviors and grace and all kinds of things that come from that. You learn things from that that expands your capacity to love. And you having 4 children, have been able to utilize those choices that you have for your life. That's the lens and the filter that you have for generating these different experiences and emotions. And I have my own, way that I do that through my friends, my family, my community, right? There's all of these different people that I am loving on. And that is a way that we get to practice the emotions that lead us to this larger goal. But like you said, we're never going to get there. It's about the experience. You could get up at 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock, and each time that you did it, it could feel different. Your expansion isn't like it's like you keep doing it. You don't say, well, I already did that, so I'm not going to do that anymore. But you keep doing it because it changes you and it does something to you each time that you couldn't possibly know. It's not something you can put your hands on, but it's not something tactile with our senses like that. It's something that we know inside is shifting us. The practice of loving, practice of being at peace in nature or wherever that is for you, the practice of experiencing joy.
So as you're talking about this, I'm seeing this picture of we're adding to our becoming with these practices. And at first I got the image of a puzzle, but then that didn't feel quite right because it, since there is no end to this becoming, to this expansion, to this growth, it's like an infinite puzzle. And we're just collecting the pieces and putting them in place. And if it's an infinite puzzle, then it can't be put together sequentially. There's no first step, second step, third step, fourth step. That doesn't exist because there's no beginning and there's no end and there's no bounds. So there is no sequence that has to be followed. The purpose isn't in the sequencing of becoming, it's in the collecting of the practices and the pieces that make us more whole,
Yes.
more expanded, more love filled.
Mhm.
Can I quote God in autobiography?
Yeah, sure.
I'm super excited about this. So, God in
A book
autobiography is
a
told to a
book by Jerry
philosopher
Martin.
by Jerry L.
Yep.
Martin. Um, God and Jerry are discussing the purpose of existence. Okay, so they get into this real deep discussion on purpose. And Jerry's unsatisfied with God's answer when God says, well, the purpose of singing a song isn't to get to the end.
Mm,
And Jerry says,
mm.
so there's no end goal. And he's really unsatisfied and he's really bothered by this. And God says, I can see this will take some time. You'll come up with an analogy that works for you if you keep searching. You surely understand that a single symphony has meaning. It certainly has a meaningful structure and sequence, yet the purpose of a song is not to get to the end. The purpose is in the doing of it. Ask yourself, what is the doing of a life, of a universe? What is the doing
Mm,
of a life, of a universe?
mm.
And God then goes on a few paragraphs later to, because Jerry asks, then you are working with individuals both for their own growth and for the social and cosmic order. And I could just picture God laughing and saying, yes, though that does not sound as intimate as it is. One lover doesn't say of the other, I'm trying to call her into being and trying to create a harmonious, well-ordered household that is immensely too sterile. You are living in and through one another, enjoying each other's growth, feeling the pain of each other's heartbreak, and trying to create a life together that has value and reflects a range of values. But you falsify all that if you make it to means ends, too instrumental in conception. It starts from an intimate core, just you and her making a life together. Why shouldn't the universe be like that? Why shouldn't that be the whole story of creation? You do not say about the love, oh, it's meaningless because it lacks a larger purpose. If you say that, it's not love. The universe is one great act of love. That is what it means to call into being. The cosmic order reflects and promotes that. analogously the social order.
Mm. So that was a lot to take in. That was beautiful. Um, what it had me thinking of is what started this entire topic for me in the first place. So it's an inadequate analogy, and it is why I think many of us struggle with being willing to practice and even being willing to, like, in our society, it's always the thing. It's always the end instead of the means. It's always the, what it is instead of the journey, right? And part of that is also we've been told that we can't make mistakes,
Mhm,
that we can't fail. We see failure, right, whenever we're practicing. So when we're practicing, we miss the mark. So when you were describing what you were describing, I was thinking about, like, Edison talks about many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that it didn't work, that it
mhm,
won't work.
mhm,
And so I think about that and I think 10,000, how many times do we, like in relationship, when we fail, it can hurt. It's not like a light bulb. When Edison was messing up a light bulb, he's like, "Oh, that didn't work." So he did it again. "Oh, that didn't work." So he did it again. "Oh, that didn't work." So he did it again. So it took persistence and it took determination. But how much did it really break his heart? Now it must have broke his spirit sometimes because he was frustrated that he didn't do it. But it's not like another human being. It's not like love. It's not like life. And when we show up for each other in life, sometimes it takes practicing missing the mark, and it's different when people's lives are impacted by us missing the mark, right? So when I was thinking about this is the analogy that came up, and I'm just going to read it because I like the way that it originally came out, the purity of how it came out. When we make mistakes, do we worry, get down on ourselves, replay how it could have been done better, woulda, coulda, shoulda ourselves into inaction? A movie set could teach us a lot about how to approach life. They don't take one shot, and if they miss the mark, quit. They learn. They do it again and again and again. Sometimes they laugh, sometimes they mess up on purpose just to lighten the mood. They shift and align everyone's frequency so the way is clear for learning and a new beginning, right? And so I think about that and I think whatever kind of analogies we need that are microcosms of our huge inner state, it helps us to kind of see we can apply that same type of generous grace to ourselves and allow for us to have this spaciousness, make mistakes, but we also need people around us that allow for us to make those same mistakes. We can't make mistakes and have a director that's like, you are doing awful, do better. Right? We can't have a partner or somebody who's like, "You missed the mark. I don't know if I can stick around for this.
mhm,
2 strikes, 3 strikes, 1 more strike, you're out." We can't grow and become if we're constantly being tallied up. Like, God doesn't do that to us. God doesn't say, "Oh, Beth, 1 more strike, you're out." Right? And it's like we all have this capacity to offer that to ourselves and each other, like a generous spirit of that we're trying to figure this out. We're trying to grow.
mm. Yeah, I was pondering, this is why it took me a minute to catch my thoughts up. Um, you mentioned relationships and pretty much everything we do as humans is in some sort of relationship. Really. I mean, not necessarily human to human, but everything that we are doing and being is in relationship to other things. We are constantly causing effects to ripple out. And so, of course, in a human to human relationship, you've got, I mean, wait, are you perfect? Have you
Me?
gotten there yet? Have
My gosh,
you
no.
achieved it? Right. Neither
Oh,
of me. But we can't then we can't go into a relationship and expect a relationship to be picture perfect. But that's
right.
what people do. That's what they do. They enter relationships as an imperfect human and expect that the relationship itself is going to be is going to like make them both better. And really the case is when you've got a human and a human, they're going to amplify one another, but it's not selective. So we'll amplify one another's strengths, and we'll amplify one another's weaknesses, and we'll amplify one another's faults, and we'll amplify one another's joys. It's all going to be amplified. And if we approach the relationship as a practice, the purpose
Mhm.
of this relationship is
Yeah.
for me and for you and for us and for our community to become not even necessarily better, but to grow and to expand, to grow more into love, to expand more into giving love and receiving love better, then that's not a failure. But it has to be from that posture of we're going to bring stuff up. And then together, we're going to use the stuff that we bring up to grow. That is the practice of relationship.
Mm. It choked me up just a little bit because I think about how important it is for us as humans to have that space where we can do that. Like what you're describing is worth creating in our lives. But then that means that we have to be intentional, that
Mm,
we have to be aware and awake of what do I want for my life? What are my guiding tenets, right? And
mhm,
so for me, like I said, love, peace, joy. Those are my top tier. And because for me, for my higher self, I believe in my in what I believe in this world is that that's what I'm being called to do is to participate in the collective experiencing personally, because that's the only place that I can contribute to the collective is through who I am, my personal frequency, what I offer into this world, what I within my bandwidth and my surroundings or whatever I put out, I can only influence and those people around me can only influence me if I'm in their proximity in their space. So this joy, peace, and love extends with whoever's proximate to us. And I want to go back to this is part of the practice. What we're talking about is not just for relationships. It's a practice with our life of how do we take this top thing that we want to be here for, this thing that we're here for. How do we take that and really get it fine tuned and do the work to say, I want everything filtered through this? Because otherwise, the world is going to be more than happy to fill our life and our time for us. People will take this and do that and maneuver here and maneuver there, but it's up to us to keep the purity of our lens and our filter. And so, if my filter is joy, peace, and love, because I want to be my higher self, then if something in front of me, no matter how much I love them, but if I don't have peace and joy, or no matter how much I hope for this to be that situation, if it is not, and that is not what's being created within me, then we get to make adjustments. We get to pivot, we get to move, we get to slightly adjust so that we can keep practicing more love, peace, and joy.
I have a thought about that. The question you posed was, how do we determine what that is for us? And you and I both did years of work around determining this. So it's not something that's just going to pop out right in front of you. Or it may. You may just download it and may be there, but it took a lot of fine-tuning and practice to refine what that looked like. And I don't know about you, but for me, that was all done on my own. That was a solo practice that I had to do. That wasn't necessarily in the company of others because no one else has that connection to God, that personal connection to God that I have. No one else has that personal connection to my higher self that I have. They have their own, but they don't have it for me. And so I wrote down earlier, I said, the question isn't where am I going? What's the goal? The question is, how do I want to feel? And how do I want others to feel around me? So I'm going to restate that. The question is not, where am I going? What's the goal? Because that neglects the only thing that we have, and the only thing that we have is the present. But if we have an idea of how I want to feel and how I want others to feel around me, in other words, what I want their experience to be of me, then everything that I try and practice can be filtered through. Does this bring me love, peace, joy, abundance, amplification, growth, bliss? It's, and God says this, it's the personal co-partnering with God from moment to moment to moment. The practice is this. Practice is personally co-partnering with God moment to moment to moment and creating the feeling that you want to embody.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And with that, we've talked before, and if you haven't listened to us talk about this, God means different things to different people. And so whatever your belief system is, interject that into that. But you are experiencing and communing and having a relationship with something outside of yourself um, that is this higher collective that contributes to this and this higher collective. And so when you think about what you just described in this practice, yes, it is done solo, but it's done solo with the universe or God or that energy inside of us as source and outside of us. So this contributes to the stretching, it's like the yin and yang. It's like the ground, but yet the air. It's like the visible here and now and the invisible beyond. And there is this inside me that's me, and then there's this entity and this spiritual dust and this light that's inside of us. So it's something that we can't see, but it's in there. But even though somebody just reminded me recently that even though I am on my own for much of what I'm doing, there's also it's always in communion with others. There's like, even though I may be having this experience with the universe, oh my gosh, like I think about how you've contributed to my I think about how my last organization that I was working with and all the people that were in there contributed to my spirit. Think about how the people that I served and was part of their lives contributed, because every single person that we allow to be in our lives is, what is it, grist for the mill. It's something that shapes us. It's something that gives us a sounding board, and we give them a sounding board to love and experience this joy and experience this peace. It's like we're weaving with each other and moving with each other, right? And this is where we have this opportunity to practice and practice feeling these feelings, right? But yet it doesn't mean to avoid feeling. It doesn't mean to only be around people that have the supreme capacity for love, peace, and joy. I want to take in what people who are doing this really well, how they're doing it. I want to take in their practices. But I'm not avoiding times that are challenging. I'm certainly putting myself in those spaces, because putting myself in those spaces as this me allows for me to contribute to more love, peace, and joy in other people's lives. by how I respond to them.
I just want to add on to what you said when you were talking about. Well, I'm going to go back to the idea of failure or getting the take wrong. We can't know, we can't refine or know if a practice is right for us if we don't have the opportunity to experience what's not right. It'd be like me showing you, I was thinking of like showing you a color swatch and saying, what color is this? And without reference to any other color, it's like grays. When you're painting with grays, they all have an undertone. But if you don't have them next to each other, like the gray behind me, can you tell what the undertone of this gray is?
I can't even tell it is gray.
Right. But this gray, if I were to put it up against like a white,
See?
or if I
Yeah.
were to put
The
it up against
contrast.
a blue, it's got an undertone of blue, but you wouldn't be able to tell that if you didn't offer some contrast. Here's a pure gray.
Yeah.
Whoa.
If
Made
that's
the
pure
difference.
gray, we don't know.
Right, we don't know. But we know, but the purpose of failure or contrast is gathering more evidence. So the more swatches of gray I gather, the better a picture I have of the gray that I'm going for.
Yeah.
The more evidence I gather through my practice, the better picture I can build of how I want to refine that practice to fit into my becoming.
Yes.
And now I've got to jump over to the other thought that I had really quickly.
Okay.
When I was thinking of feeling into practice, I had this question. I was like, so we're all artists in one way or another. We're creating something. We're bringing some sort of creation into being. And if I were to think about that creation as an end, then I would wonder, well, why is it then that composers and artists and architects and writers, why is it that they don't just create their masterpiece and stop? If the goal is the creation, then you would think that once they've created that, they're done. But the goal isn't the creation because the artist is in love with the practice. The artist is continually becoming through that practice. And the practice is an expression of their being. And so if we stopped expressing, we'd be like dry wells.
Yeah.
We'd be disembodied. We wouldn't be being anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. As you said that, I was getting the image of like if it's all about the creation or the end of whatever it is, because the end is something that is like what it's all about, then death would be the point of life.
Yes. Oh my gosh. We're
Death would be
rushing
like
towards the
we're
goal.
rushing
Who's
towards
gonna
the
get there
goal. Woo!
first?
Our life is like it ends with death. So, but it's like it's about all of it in between. It's about the experience. It's about creating. It's about the ups and the downs. It's the crescendos. It's all of these things in the music, right? But it's not about the end of the song. In fact, when an end of a really good song happens, I get sad. I'm like, oh my God, I want to listen to it again
Yes.
because
Mm.
it's about the song. It's not about like the end. I can feel the end coming, and I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm going to start it over because I'm not ready
Mm.
for it to end. Right?
Oh, you know what's interesting? When you think of life in terms of a great symphony, all of a sudden we're able to separate ourselves from the investment that we have in the good and the bad, in the happy and the sad, in the loss and the pain, and in the abundance and the joy. It's all part of the symphony. It all contributes to the performance of the symphony. We don't
Yeah.
go to a great symphony and go, "Oh, that was all amazing," except for that A minor chord. That really bothered me. That was
Mm.
awful.
Mhm.
It was all part of the experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we can, and this is such a hard thing to do, and it again, all practices are a moment to moment to moment practice. And in some moments we're going to fall way short, and in some moments we're going to knock it out of the park. Even the greatest baseball players strike out, right? But if it's a moment to moment to moment practice, then we can start to become better at, in the moments where we experience loss, grief, failure, pain, sadness, all of those feelings, we can start to see them and hold them as another beautiful part of the symphony of life.
Mhm.
There is a point to them. And we would never know what soft or warm or comfortable felt like if we didn't feel hard or cold or uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I really wanna use, like, really the practice of life. Like, I wanna think about the last 3 years because what I was doing in my I call it my previous life because it was
Mhm.
really the 28 years that I was in social services that were so beautiful. They cultivated me in so many beautiful ways, and I got an opportunity to contribute to so many people's life. But it got to a point to where I was so connected to the stories, and I was so connected to people's lives, and I was so aware of the importance of what I was doing and creating to other people that when I would miss the mark, I would feel so much grief, sadness, and all of these emotions. And so it became overwhelming the load and the amount. It was like always like we were always in this organization, more, 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 more. But to us, those that were doing the services, it was taking in a lot more heartache. It was taking in a lot more than we could handle, right? And that was for me, right? That I couldn't hold all of that. So what I've done in the last 3 years is I've been curious. I'm like, "Wait, I think I get to experience happiness in my life too. I'm not just trying to help other people be happy, but I think I get to experience happiness." And it didn't feel right to me personally, to feel happiness just in the evening or just on the weekend or just on vacation because the suffering that I was experiencing during the day was just part of the experience. And it was like, I think practice allows for me to find a sustainable way to do what I'm doing. Or if I do strike out and I do say, you know what, I'm continuing to miss the ball or miss the mark or not do what I need to do in the rules of this space. It's really an opportunity to double down and find a way to be sustainable in that environment or to move on because maybe it's time to do something different. Maybe you're meant to go in a different direction. Maybe you weren't meant to play baseball. Maybe you weren't meant to be in social services. Maybe creation, who you are, is sending you in a new direction, right? And so as I've spent the last 3 years, like, there have been times early on that I would say, "Oh, that was a huge mistake." I launched a business and the platform that I chose and I trusted that was really expensive for my website, the links didn't work, and man, that looked unprofessional, and man, I just be an entrepreneur. I could be like, I struck out, man. I gotta get out of this." Or I can learn from it and be like, wow, that was awful. That was really bad. Um, how can I shift from this? What can I learn from this? I'm practicing. I'm not perfect at this yet. I don't know how to do all this. This is all new. And then I come back in. I have to do everything that goes into building something new, and I build something new, and I'm like, "Ooh, that's better." Mhm, but it's not quite what I want. Well, let me try this. So I do something new in my business, and I make an adjustment, and I'm like, "Ooh, that worked and that worked, but that didn't work. Ooh, that's kinda bad. I gotta move that away." It's this constant when you have this stance of practicing, It comes from a place of, I'm not there yet, and that's okay, but I wanna get better. It's like going up to bat and saying, "Oh, I missed it, but I made contact 3 pitches ago. I can make contact. I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna keep putting myself in the box.
Mm,
I'm gonna keep getting there," right? And so it really is about, where are we putting ourselves in a box? Where are we putting ourselves in there and saying, "I want this practice." And if it doesn't feel good,
mm,
and every part of us is like, "I don't like this box anymore. I don't wanna be in this box. This I just can't do this anymore." What does it feel like to just step one step out? What does it feel like to be outside the box? What does that feel like? And if that feels spacious, that feels right, if that feels life-giving, if that feels peace, if that feels joy, if that feels love, maybe that's the direction that we're supposed to go. Why are we getting into a box that's not our box?
mm. So I have to say, because I've been in this place before and I'm not anymore, thank God, but I had this really visceral reaction when you said that. And I want to acknowledge that this is quite possibly a reaction that a lot of listeners and viewers will have when you suggest they step one foot out of the box. That's really scary. I mean, we put it lightly, but it's not light at all,
Mm,
really, in practice. Like, when we're talking about the box, we may be talking about a job that provides your well-being. We may be talking about a relationship that you've been in for decades and you couldn't imagine not being in, no matter what the circumstances may be. We may be talking about a location that you live in where all your family is, all your friends are, and the box that you're thinking about is stepping out of that location. All of those things can be really heavy and scary. So where do you start? What do you say to someone who goes, "Oh yeah, sure, step one foot out of that box."
yeah, I thank you for bringing that up, because I think it's a really valid point. And, one of the things I'll say is that I never offer a vantage point that doesn't come from something that I understand or where I've been. I know what it feels like to be scared to leave every person who's like that, behind. Like, when I came here to Asheville, I left a job that was secure, a home that was my home that I loved. I left my family who were 10 minutes from me. I left everything that I knew behind. And for me, the first step, the only step, I couldn't rationalize it. I couldn't think my way into it. I could not conceptualize that it was okay to make any of those decisions. None of it made sense. I couldn't do that. I literally sunk into my heart, and I knew that with everything in me, that it was not this. I knew that I had so much suffering from being in that space, in that moment in time. And I knew that the universe was trying to take me somewhere else. I knew in my heart that these longings that I had to go somewhere else, to come to Asheville, to be in the mountains. I knew that longing, that I was not somebody that was always just doing the thing. I wasn't somebody that was always like, "Ooh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that." I'm very methodical and rational. So for me to be like, every single thing in me, like inside me said, when I got into my heart to do something different, what I knew was, I want to be my higher self. I want to be the best version of me, and I can't be the best version of me. I will find myself when I'm not supposed to be somebody else. When I'm not, this person. I'm not senior director of clinical services. I'm not this person in this organization. I'm not the granddaughter to this person, and the child to this person who lives down the street. When I'm like completely removed from all of that. And I have no roles. I have nothing, like it's all stripped away from me. I knew that one step at a time, if I made one decision that was like, it's spacious, that that would lead to another spacious decision. And that would lead to another spacious decision. And how I knew that was because when I had been on longer vacations, when I had been outside of that workplace, I could breathe. I was like, oh, people talk about like you're 2 to 3 days in on vacation and you finally start to feel like yourself. Jesus, are you serious? I want to feel like myself all the time. I don't want to live this life and feel like myself. Wait, let me think. I have 20 days of vacation a year. The weekends don't even give people enough time to feel like themselves. Everybody says that. So what? I get 20 out of 365 days of the year that I feel like myself. I literally finally said to myself, that's not acceptable. If the universe is my number one and I am the full expression in this world to the universe and I can't be my higher self in this environment, or this person that I'm with doesn't make me the best version of me or allow for me to have a safe space to make mistakes, I'm either prioritizing the universe in this lifetime and making it an intentional practice or I'm not. Like I literally had to say to my and it terrified me. It terrified me. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna look like I've lost my mind. I'm gonna this and that. I'm gonna like, this is what if this is wrong, blah, blah, blah." And all of a sudden, as soon as I stepped outside that box, I could breathe immediately. Like I get choked up right now thinking about the level of relief that I felt choosing myself, because when I was choosing myself, I was choosing this universal connection, and I said, "No, all of this is important, but it's not as important as who I'm supposed to be in this life that I'm supposed to live. There's something else. It's not this." And I can honestly say that every single day of my life in the last 3 years, I've been devoted to finding one more step and practicing feeling love and peace and joy. And there are sustained moments that I would not like, is it perfect? No, and I'm not expecting it to be. I love that. I love it all. It's like the universe is like coming into me and and by me allowing there to be uncertainty and fear and unknowns, I'm allowing for something beautiful that I'm not creating, that I'm co-creating with the universe to come through.
I don't want to minimize what you just said because that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that so personally. I do want to point out, though, that
Yeah.
in stepping into this spaciousness, you also did something that's really important for people to hear. And that is, you also stepped towards becoming that higher self. So you didn't just take the self that you were existing as in these circumstances into this new life and expect that that same self was going to have a new experience. That's the grass is greener phenomenon. If you bring your same self into this new life, you're going to get the same results. But if you recognize the fact that you can't go any further in your evolution and your growth until you step into the spaciousness, and then when you step into the spaciousness, then you have to realize that there's going to be, so it's like a chick hatching from an egg. You can only go so far when you're inside that shell. When you break out of that shell, now you have to experience growing pains.
Mhm.
So you're going to experience growing pains. It's going to be beautiful and it's going to be light and it's going to be joy and love and peace, but you're also going to experience growing pains because you're going to be growing so rapidly now that you're out of the shell.
Yeah.
And then also I wanted to say that we hear choosing yourself and we immediately like I grew up in this culture of, oh, like if you choose yourself, that's so selfish
Mm,
and you should never be selfish. I lacked so much self-confidence that I could barely even lift my head up when I walked out the door in the morning as a child because I was taught that that was selfish and wrong. I was so timid and afraid to be myself, my whole expressed self. It took me 39 freaking years to get here.
yeah.
Choosing yourself is choosing the universe, spirit, God's highest plan for your life. That is a good thing. And choosing yourself attracts the people, the experiences, the opportunities, the things that resonate with that higher vibration.
Mhm.
So when you choose yourself, you're choosing goodness and love. It's not selfish. It's advancing the goodness and love of this whole collective in
Yeah.
choosing yourself. I'm glad you chose yourself because I get to be more of myself because of you choosing yourself. And
Mm.
so do your friends, and so does your family, and so does your whole community. Everyone is impacted by you choosing yourself. And all of us get to experience the love that you can now give and receive because you chose yourself.
And when you say that, you're talking about all of us, not just me. Like when we choose ourselves, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. When you talk about like when you said and I just want to be honest to people, when you said um you're more of your higher self, I got this like because I don't want to pretend that I am something here, right? Like I'm not like I want to be my divine highest self.
Yeah.
And I believe that we all have the capacity to be that divine higher self. But I want to acknowledge that just like what you said, our inclination will be to shrink from that. It
Mhm.
will be like we have this belief that somehow we're narcissistic if we say that we want something great for ourselves. And for me, greatness means being the version of me that I can be while I'm here. And I believe that we all have that capacity. So when I say higher self, I don't mean higher to anybody else. I don't mean people are here and or that I was here and here. When I look at my higher self, I also look at the me that and this is just there's no competition with anybody else. It's just me with the divine
That's right.
and this fullest expression of who I get to be. But I also include my imperfections. I include, like, the parts of me, the human part of me, like, I don't look like you, and you don't look like me, and nobody else looks like me. Of course, we have doppelgangers, but we're still DNA-wise quite completely different, right? So we're all uniquely different, and we have I mean the parts of me the person that I can be now in my higher self isn't the woulda, coulda, shoulda person. The
Mhm.
person that I am now isn't like the, "Oh, well, I shouldn't do this," or "I shouldn't do that because somebody says this is what we should do and this is what we should or the government says this or society says this." I'm not doing that anymore. Like, so this version of me is the one who follows love, peace, and joy, who gives myself grace, who misses the mark and sees it as an opportunity to like it's not like I don't take advantage of it and say, "Oh, well, I'm just gonna mess up and do something bad, and then that's just a mistake, and now I get to be a higher version of myself." It's never calculated. It always any action that I do or inaction that I do comes from a space of genuinely trying to be steeped in this love, peace, and joy, and sometimes it's I still miss the mark.
Yep. Called
But I
being
forgive
human.
myself. Yeah, but then I practice forgiveness, or I practice, "Well, what did that teach me?"
Yeah.
Or I practice, "Wait, what if I'm uncomfortable because it gets to be a part of me,
Mm.
and I didn't know that before. Been beating myself up for 30 years." Or I've been thinking that, oh, I wasn't even open to, but this gets to be a part of me. In what way? Right? Like, you're constantly in this space of curiosity, but it's about myself and not everybody else
Mm,
making me feel this way or helping me to feel this way. Or if you do this or if you do that, or if I can help you be this way or that way, then I can be this person. No. Ah, I'm just I'm just experiencing the world and changing my view according to what I feel like allows for me to be the fullest expression of myself, which is my higher self. And I'm making choices along the way towards that.
mm,
This is about, you take this information and you do with it what you will, but you will do something different than what I will. And that's okay.
beautiful. I have nothing more to say except that I would love, after I do the outro, to leave the viewers and listeners with a little blessing.
Beautiful. Thank
Okay.
you for the conversation.
And a special thanks to Asheville artist Melissa Moss for our cover art. You can learn more about Melissa at melissamossart.com. Thank you to Cloud Cult for our intro and outro music from their song, There's So Much Energy in Us. Find out more about Cloud Cult at cloudcult.com. And to all of our listeners, may you receive this blessing. May your life be filled with all joy, peace, and love. May you find a way in every moment to step into the spaciousness that you are being called into. May you become the clearest, most beautiful, most divine expression of who you came here to be. And may all of this bring you greater love, greater abundance, greater amplification and growth than you could have ever even asked for. Thank you to all of our listeners. We send you peace, love, and light.